Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for tuning in to Juneteenth. Once again, I am Pleasantly Twisted, and I am here with kurushiidrive, who is going to talk to us about fun things in speedrunning and maybe a couple of other topics. So let's just jump right into it, Kurushi.
Yes.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Sensational. I love that for everybody. Now, you have popped up on the scene a couple of times now because I believe you've been on Mainline and you've been in a couple of Black and the Flash events, yeah?
That's right. Yeah, I've been in the Juneteenth. I've been in Black and the Flash last year as well as SGDQ last year.
That's what I thought. I was gonna say, good times, great times. That was with After Image specifically. So I wanted to ask you a couple of things. First and foremost, what originally sparked your interest in speed running?
Yeah, so I've always been interested in just speedruns like done for various games I've played before. In the past, like 2015 or so it was, I watched a lot of Mirror's Edge speedruns and also Portal 1 speedruns. Like those are the speedruns I used to watch the most when I was younger. And that was what had initially caught my interest because it's just always cool to see games you've played before, like completely broken apart by other people. More recently though, it was like around 2023 when I was watching. It's pretty funny. There was this video I saw on Twitter where it was showing a side by side of Harmony of Dissonance Maxim mode being completed before Guilty Gear Strive would launch to main menu, because that was how long it would take to launch Guilty Gear Strive at the time. Yeah, because it had to do all the connecting the server and constantly send data back and forth between the client and the server. So that's what made it take so long. But that was actually what like kind of sparked my interest the most. Yeah.
I don't even. That just kind of threw my entire question pool to the wayside because I could talk about just that. That's wild. Which is faster? That we used to have that as a show here on HotFix, I think, which was What's Faster, and literally that would have just been the funniest thing ever. Because as someone who used to play like all the earlier Guilty Gears, I remember it loading for 974 years on my PS1. And I was like, listen, it shouldn't take all this effort and energy. I just want to throw bow at people and kick people in the face,
Right.
as a cute girl with a big circular hairstyle that makes zero sense, absolutely no sense whatsoever. But I actually wanted to touch on that a little bit because I've noticed in the Black and the Flash Discord that you're also probably the most active in our loving channel Nuck Up. For those you are not in the know, that's our fighting game community channel. So can you tell us a little bit more about your fighting game groups, especially since you just talked about Guilty Gear? Because that's just speedrunning and Guilty Gear are two things I wouldn't expect to hear in the same sentence, especially for a comparison. So tell us about your fighting game background.
Yeah, for sure. It's actually interesting because I've seen a lot of people, at least in the Symphony of the Night speedrun community, like that are crossover with fighting games as well. But that being said, I started with fighting games in 2011. It was Street Fighter 4. That was my first fighting game, and I branched out to like King of Fighters, which is now my favorite series. I played Blaze Blue. I played Marvel vs. Capcom 3. All the games that were like around that time. Those were the games I dabbled in. But over time, as I started like having less friends to be able to play with. College was when I had the most friends to play with, but after college finished up for me, I had a lot less opportunities to play with people except for at locals. So it started to become less of a hobby I could like easily indulge in. And actually, for that matter, net play has gotten much better since when I first started. So it's been a lot easier to play fighting games, but also it's been harder for me to like feel the motivation to boot them up. Because net play for me is not the same experience as playing in person with people, right? Like that's like for me the best experience of playing fighting games. But yeah, that's been like the course of my fighting games journey in general. I guess how that, yeah.
No, go ahead, finish your thought, please.
Oh yeah. I guess how that ties to like the speedrunning portion, like as I mentioned, like Symphony of the Night, I've noticed in the Discord server for it, the long library, there's been a lot of people that have mentioned like their fighting game background before. People that play, of course, on like leverless methods of controllers, like the hitbox style arcade stick or like whatever custom arcade stick they have. People that have played like Street Fighter 6 before. Actually, one of our own community members, Swarm, I believe he's played some Street Fighter 6 himself and used to play Street Fighter 4. So it's always cool to hear those things. But yeah, in general, I feel like there is a lot more overlap than probably people realize, and you can kind of apply like similar mentalities to both fighting games, like the journey of improving to speedrunning. So
And see, and now that you've said that, that makes a whole lot more sense because over in some of the communities I'm in too, just to kind of like relate to it a little bit myself, I always call myself retired FGC for similar reasons because I always I sound like a just broken record. I always talk about how I love the couch co-op in person, right there in your face experience. I love talking smack with my friends. I love playing beat 'em up with my friends and stuff. And I'm kind of in the same boat as you. It doesn't quite hit the same now that we're in like that super heavy culture of everything has to be ranked, everything has to be online net play, everything has to be like all the people can play and all this other stuff. And it's not to sound like it's elitist. It's just one of those things where it's like it was a different time frame. It was a different energy. It was a different vibe. And there was something special about sitting around with like 6 of your homies and running the table on Tekken 3 with Harong and just being like, I mean, you're saying that I'm not that good, but I'm still on the stick. So what's good? I'm not seeing the correlation of the things that you're saying. It doesn't make sense. You say I'm garbage, but yet I'm sitting here at 12-0.
Yeah.
Make it make sense, homie. And then thinking about it too, because on the challenge run side of things, it's a lot of repetition and practice. And it's something that just feels good about getting really high rank in those types of things. So thank you for introducing a new way to explain for me at least, why am I in this space? Because I always looked at it and was like, I don't know how I got here. But now that you've said that, I was like, yeah, there's points being made. That makes perfect sense. Perfect sense. But going back to the speedrunning side of things, so you've done After Image, you're doing Castlevania for Juneteenth, and I wanted to know if when it came to the speedruns proper, was Vanias just the genre that you floated to as a direct result, or like, did you explore other things and say, you know what, this really isn't my jam. I don't think I want to do this.
Yeah, I think some time ago, I did try learning some of the Mirzet speedrun techniques, and I wasn't able to do them as consistently as I wanted to, so I kind of dropped it. But later on, when I actually came back to get into speedrunning, which was back 2 years ago in 2023, I had played Harmony of Dissonance, which is the first like start to finish Metroidvania I had played, and that game like completely blew my mind. I was like, how did games like this exist on the Game Boy Advance? Because I didn't play these kind of games when I was younger, right? I just played like a couple games on my DS. I played fighting games, of course, but I didn't play games like this that were just so packed with different levels of mechanics and all these RPG things that you can incorporate potentially into games like played much faster. So when I played Harmony Dissonance, that completely like changed my mindset. And then I had seen Afterimage on Steam pop up, and like obviously immediately the art is just such a it pops out a lot because it's way different art style than like most Metroidvanias are, where they're like kind of darkish themed. I played it and I'm like, okay, I've got to speedrun this game. So that's how that came about. Yeah, and it was actually from there that I had first checked out Symphony of the Night, because the developers of Afterimage had mentioned that it was one of their #1 inspirations, and Hollow Knight along with that like was part of what they integrated into the game to like, you know, have all of the major Metroidvanias be like really influential in their game. So I made sure to check out both Hollow Knight and Symphony of the Night afterwards, and it wasn't a regret. So
So there you go. For everybody who's looking for something to keep them over while they're waiting for Silksong, you can go forth and grab you After Image. As someone who has recently acquired it, because it was sitting on my wish list for a while, you're going to want to go ahead and get that in your repertoire, because we need more Hollow Knight in our lives. We can only play Hollow Knight so many times. We've all got 112% multiple times. We can go forth and play something different. After Image seems to be that girl. That's what we're going to be looking at next. But now we're going to ask, not quite spicy, but a little bit of a cornball question. So we've talked about Castlevania. We've talked about After Image. I need to know, from your personal opinion, who's winning in the fight? Alucard or Renee?
Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, Alucard is so powerful. You can use all these insane weapons that probably really don't fit very well in the Castlevania universe itself. But Renee is also like immortal, so I mean, that's got to be the easy one right there. Like in the story for, I mean, it's not really a spoiler because it's going to be like the first minute of the game that you guys will play, of course, is that Renee like can't die because she just revives at the tree every time, like the save point trees. So I don't think Alucard's going to have an easy time with that one. I think Renee's got it free.
Okay, so Renee might have it free. So then we're going to have to change it up. We're going to have to get you into a game that I've recently completed called Nine Souls, because, you know, the main character for that one is also immortal. So that may be a better, maybe a little bit more of a fair matchup, since, you know, they both going to keep getting back up because they ain't going to ever hear no bell.
Yeah, absolutely.
They ain't ever going to hear no bell. So the last couple of things I wanted to ask you, or maybe we'll do one more thing depending on how time looks, but I need to know something else. gaming crossovers. We've seen tons of them in fighting games. We've seen some of them in more platformers and a lot of variants and whatnot. I need to know from you, what's the gaming crossover that you need to see happen? Like, who do you want showing up in the game next time and you're like, yeah, that's the one. I got to play that.
Well, that's such a tricky one. Like when I first heard about the Castlevania Judgment fighting game, I was like, okay, this would have been cool if it got like more polished and maybe like a higher acclaimed dev on it. But crossover, huh? I would say it would be cool to see something like a Castlevania BlazBlue Guilty Gear mashup. I feel like we haven't had the opportunity to see like all of these all of these characters like come together and join forces in
oh
such a
my
way.
god, that would be gas. All the Belmonts, all the different iterations of Dracula. Oh my god, especially Arxis we have to call Arxis because they're the only ones who are going to be able to handle Maria correctly.
That's true. Actually,
they're the only ones who are going to be able to do Maria correctly. As long as it's not as irritating as, oh God, what's that girl's name? I can't think of her name, but she's May. As long as it's not another May. We can't do that.
I can agree with that.
No more Mays. No more. If you're a May main in chat, I'm sorry, but also please pick someone different. We're not doing this. Like, I have whole fighting game. I might be FGC retired, but I will still show up in your chat to be like, oh, so you still don't drive Impact. Weird. That's wild. Oh, you didn't know that was plus? Yikes. Yikes. But then the last thing I wanted to ask you is, while we wrap this up, what's a speed run that you're looking to learn? What's one that you're really itching to get your hands on and be like, you know what, I really want to learn that?
Yeah, great question. Recently I've been picking up a couple of the speedruns I was doing before. So I was doing Aria of Sorrow last year. I want to pick that up again this year. I also want to do some more optimization of the Bleach Dark Souls any percent run, because I feel like that one has a lot of room for improvement still. And Bleach Dark Souls, for those of you that don't know, it's the best fighting game that you guys have never played on the Nintendo DS, so definitely check it out, especially if you like the Bleach series. There's also Rune Factory 4, which is a game I've been trying to get back into recently, because there was a new Rune Factory game that came out actually yesterday. So it's been exciting, and I want to actually pick up Rune Factory 4 again, because that's my favorite from the series by far. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I wasn't expecting the Rune Factory mention.
Yeah.
I'm gonna I actually will be playing that soon here myself, but we're not gonna get into that because this is an interview about you. But that being said, this interview about you, unfortunately, has to come to a close. So Kurushi, I do want to say thank you so much for your time today. It is super duper appreciated. And thank you, chat, for hanging in with us. We're going to get back to some of that delicious Juneteenth content you've been looking forward to. So make sure you get up, stretch those legs, unshrimp your back. I'm going to tell you to unshrimp your back every single time we talk about this. So don't sit there acting like you have good posture. You do not. Go get water, and we will see you here in a couple of moments.